Good morning, my MPP peeps. Welcome to another installment of the Weekend Free-for-All. This is a bi-weekly video that I do for non-members, and this is an example of what you'll get as a member twice a day. Every trading day, we do a video in the morning and a video in the afternoon. We do it live via Zoom. And I go over all the charts, all the setups that I'm looking at for the day, in the morning, in the afternoon, and then I take questions live from all my members and answer them in real time. So if you like what you see today and want to become a member, it's only $50 a month. First month's free. All right, guys, let's go over the SPX first. What an amazing move this week. We held this 200 SMA and are now overshooting even my higher targets of 3130, and now into the stratosphere, going for 3256, which is the 0.886 retrace of this entire move down. And we could even go through that and attack this uptrend line that held from December of 2018. As you can see, this uptrend line held, but finally broke because of the coronavirus, and we're now attacking that trend line again. This move, it can extend as far as it wants to, but at some point there will be a pullback. And right now we've taken a lot of profits off the table. We're in not too many short-term trades. So I would like to see some sort of pullback to at least this 10 SMA, which is right around 3062, possibly the 200 SMA, which is right around 3007, and then find some footing, make sure the bulls come back in and defend that 200 and that 10 SMA, and then start to head back up. And I believe that is a time for a great dip buying opportunity for short-term names. Because with this move, everyone, it appears as if this was the bottom. So until we break this 200 SMA again, and then if we end up losing this low right here of 2766, then I'll start to reconsider that theory. But as long as we hold these levels right here, you got to look for up, and it is very possible bottoms in. And my upper target for this bull market is 4130, and we've got obviously extend past that depending how strong the bulls are, but right now that's my at least my soft target for the longer term. And but I do believe it's gonna be a rocky road. Obviously, getting there, there's going to be big pullbacks along the way. But as long as this 2766 holds, I think that's in the cards before a lower low. Let's go to the Qs. I mean, nothing stronger than the Qs. All-time highs put in, all-time closing high put in for the week. One little concerning look is this wedge developing, and it could, we could either break out or break down. So I think next couple weeks are going to be very key. If we do break this wedge, I think we could get a quick flush down to this uptrend line that started in 2018, December 2018. I think we could get a quick flush down to that area, like, the 220s on the Qs. And it would be an excellent dip to buy, and I think necessary for a stronger rally to continue. You need some sort of healthy consolidation, some sort of pullback to take off the overbought levels, take some of the steam out of the bull's sail, especially the latecomers, and so that we can then get some momentum back and head even stronger to the upside after we capture some shorts that think, you know, Armageddon's coming and we're going to go back to the lows. We need to catch those guys off guard again to then take it back higher. So, you know, would love to see a flush, but doesn't necessarily need to happen. We could see as high as this 257 first. Odds are that's not going to happen, but this market has defied the odds. So it's very possible. But if we do break this wedge, I'm looking for the 220s on the Qs and great buying opportunity there. IWM, the Russell, you know, this along with the Dow Jones is still the weaker of the indices, but coming back strong. You know, a lot of the rotation we were seeing last week were in these beaten down names, you know, beaten down from the virus. And these names were in the Dow Jones and the Russell. Small caps and large caps are all coming back strong. And we closed above the 200 SMA on the IWM, you know, leaped over it, gapped up over it, and then held it. So that's a pretty bullish sign heading into next week. Next resistance is at 154.54 at the 0.786. So let's see how we handle that. And then the DIA, Dow Jones, same thing, gapped up over the 200 SMA, held it, very bullish. May want to fill this gap right here. Next resistance is at 282.90 at the 0.886 retrace. And we'll see if that can get taken out. But odds are we're going to find resistance up here, come back down and test this 200 SMA along with the rest of the indices. And like I said, we'll offer a great dip buying opportunity. Some names, individual names, some winners. These are winners of ours, big winners of ours last week. We bought, we gave the signal to our members on NEO at 420. So we were waiting for this downtrend line to break. It did. It broke right here, and at 420 we bought on this day, and then we're quickly paid upwards of $1. We sold at $6, so we were paid $1.80. I mean, just a tremendous move. That's, you know, over 30% move. Bananas for 4 days, and you know, everyone's pretty happy about this one. And we sold at $6 at this 0.382 retrace of this. I'll show you this entire move down. So we got, you know, this from high to low. The 0.382 is that 6, and I do believe it's going to consolidate. And I would love a move back down to the 5 area, even a touch of this 10 SMA, which is currently at 452, to then reload what we sold and look for the next target of 750. Still very bullish, this name. Looks like the lows could be in, and we're heading higher. So watch for this name around 5. I think it's a good buying opportunity for the next target of 750. Next name, just killed it yesterday, was this OAS oil play. A lot of bullish sentiment coming back into the oil patch, and monster move of 126% yesterday. We got into some calls. The January, we bought some leap calls. The January 2021 2 calls. Those paid 252%, and we're out of half. And now we're playing with the house's money, so I'm looking for more. And we have this downtrend line right here that's being attacked. And I think if we take this out, it is very possible we head to this 0.236 retrace, which is 3.58. So we could head up another, you know, more than 100% here, 200%. And then the 0.382 retrace is 5.64. I know that's getting a little ahead of ourselves, but you know, this is a very beaten down name. And if oil continues to rise and oil business continues to rebound, you know, this could benefit. OAS is a big name in oil. If we go to the weekly, Move this down. You go to the weekly. You know, this has seen much better days. You can see it used to be in the 50s. So, you know, this could potentially rise far and fast, but it needs to break this downtrend line and to attack this 350 area first. So let's see what happens there next week. FSLY, monster winner. We've actually been holding this name for the longer term. I'll show you where we got in. We bought this breakout, you know, along in the, November 2019. So we've been holding it a while. We bought this breakout. It just didn't move very fast, but I believed in the business. The business is changing basically the way the internet works. So I knew that eventually this name would explode. It just took a while, and finally we got that explosion. Doubled. It was a double. We got in at 20, I think 21.32, and we sold up here around 44-ish. Currently, we're actually short this name and looking for a retest of this 0.236 retrace around 42.63. Would love a move down to 0.382 retrace down to 37.77, and it's a retrace from this low to this high. So if we can get this 37.77, that's where I would ideally like to cover my short and then get long again for the next wave up. So looking for this name to pull back more, and if it does not pull back and breaks this downtrend line first, then I'm gonna cover my short and get long up here, because this name's so strong it could head to, you know, 55, 60 before a bigger pullback comes. So just watching this name next week, and watching this level and these two levels down here. Hopefully my lower levels get hit first. All right, a few names that exploded last week because of rebound hopes. Names that have been beaten down are coming back because of the reopening happening, and actually the jobs numbers that were surprisingly high yesterday. So a lot of these beaten down names are exploding. BA is one of them, and this is one of the requested names of VTANBB at VTANBB. Here you go. We have a big volume day the last 3 days: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and as you can see, monster gaps up. We were looking to trade this name on this break right here, just missed it because it moved too fast. But I think this name is buyable on some sort of retrace. Right now, it's just too hot. Look at this RSI, very hot. MACD, very hot. But I think it has higher to go, especially if the recovery in the economy continues, or at least the hopes of the recovery. So I would look for a retrace down to, you know, ideally the 0.382 retrace of this move is around 178. And if I draw a line right here, you can see that if a 178 is hit, it's very possible we also hit this uptrend line that's forming. And if we do hit that, I think that is a buyable opportunity. And especially if, you know, this somewhere to, you know, probably load a quarter position, a half position. Then if you break a downtrend line, you load up the rest of the position and look for 230, 240, and then next target is the 0.618 retrace of this entire move down. Also happens to be the 200 SMA at 275. So, you know, we may not get this 178, but at least look for some kind of retrace, and then watch for a break of downtrend line after the retrace to then get long and go for this 230, 240, 275. And a stop for me, I always make a stop on a close below the 10 SMA. The 10 SMA serves as a short-term bullish indicator for me. And if that short-term bullish indicator gets broken, I get out because that signals a possible trend change. And I just want to play it safe and get out. So if you catch this thing around the 180, 178 area, risk reward is pretty darn good. All right, let's move on to Delta. I mean, all the airlines have exploded. Super hot right now. So I wouldn't buy here. I would wait for some sort of retrace. And I'm looking at the 0.382, possibly the 0.5, or 32.55, 31.10. That's a retrace of this move from this low to this high. So we can at least fill this gap or get down to somewhere in this area, this 0.5 at 31. I think that's a good place to start loading long. And then once we break downtrend line, head higher, add to that long. My next target on this would be this 0.50 retrace of this move down, which is 40. And then if we can break 40, I think it's possible we get 45, 46, this 200 SMA. But I wouldn't chase. I would wait for some sort of retrace, some sort of breather to try it long. Next up, JPM. Banks are coming back. Hey, if the economy is going to open, the banks are going to do well. So, you know, all the banks have exploded. JPM to me is the best bank out there. We made some money on this move after it broke this downtrend line. Unfortunately, we sold up right here, and this thing just kept going. And we've now tagged the 200 SMA, and this thing needs to breathe. It needs to rest, and I'm looking for at least the 0.382 retrace down to this 103 area. And if it can hold and then break a downtrend line, I think it is a nice add to at least test this 200 SMA again. And then if we can break the 200 SMA, close above it, then it's possible we've seen the lows. And then that's another chance to add with a stop being a close below this 10 SMA for me. That's how I'm playing JPM, but very strong and looking for higher. RCL, you know, it's all the cruise lines had big days, big weeks, volume massive. Just look at that volume stick, huge. But it's hot, extremely hot right now. I would like to see at least a gap fill back down to the 60 level to start loading the boat long. And then if it can break after a pullback, break a downtrend line that forms, then add more. And I would be looking for 78, possibly 92 if this market continues higher. But want to get a more favorable risk reward scenario before trying this trade. Closer to the 10 SMA, so my stop is much closer and my reward is much greater. SHAK, restaurants, hey, are reopening. SHAK was strong before the coronavirus, and so I'm looking to play this name as well. It's breaking out finally of this long consolidation period, this 2-month consolidation period. Held that breakout barely yesterday. So if it can rest here and then move higher, I'm going to get long this name. Looking for 68 first. And then if market continues higher, it's possible we get to this 0.618 at 77. And then the gap fill and 0.8786 retraces in this 85, 89 area. That's definitely shooting for the stars. But, this name is a lot of catching up to do, so it's possible. But need to clear this 200 SMA first. Next up is LBS. So the casinos have reopened, and LBS is breaking out of this ascending triangle pattern and held the breakout yesterday, barely, definitely sold off. But I think if it can hold this breakout, I think this is worth a long to at least 58. And then if it can close above the 200 SMA, it could have a run to fill this gap at 65. But, you know, needs to hold this breakout. So, you know, tight stop. If it fails, this breakout fails, and we, you know, close below this uptrend line, that would be a stop for me. And the reward, you know, 65 is pretty good compared to the stop out, which is only about 4 points lower. WYNN is another one, another Vegas play. I would need to see this thing take a breather, come back, at least fill this gap, and then break some downtrend lines to then enter this trade for at least move back up to the 200 SMA. And then if we can close above the 200 SMA, then the next target would be 116-ish at this 0.786 retrace. But this name's looking good. Looks like we could have put in a longer term bottom. All right, let's look at some other plays that are non-recovery related, but names I'm looking to get into. This is Netflix. Probably heard of it. It's you know, been on a tear, but a nice pullback here. Had a decent day on Friday. You know, tested these lows, and then had a nice piercing candle, bullish piercing candle that closed a little bit above this downtrend line that I have forming. One concerning look is a potential, you know, we got a shoulder, head, shoulder, potential head and shoulders pattern forming. So, you know, if the lows of 397 break, that pattern will play out and will probably drop to this 360 level. However, a lot of times, you know, when we see these head and shoulders patterns, a lot of traders see it and get short. And when the pattern fails, for instance, if we closed above 428, this high right here, and the pattern fails, then a failed pattern could have a massive break to the upside. So that's what I'm looking for, a close above this 428. If we can close above that, I will try a long for an upper target of 484 to 498. So that's the 0.618 retrace of this move and this move down, and this move down. 484, 496. So really nice reward compared to the risk. So it would only be like 10 points of risk for, you know, 60 to 70 points of reward. So like that play. If it plays out, let's see what happens. Tesla, just really like how this thing's consolidating and bull flagging, holding this breakout, holding this gap up. And if it can get above this downtrend line strongly in an intraday scenario, I will get long, and I'm shooting for 985 with a tight stop on a close below the 10 SMA, which right now is around 850. So nice risk reward here if it can break this mini downtrend line. All right, some long-term names. Going over some long-term names now. And these are names that we are actually already long and have added to as of the close of Friday. Pinterest, you know, I just like their business model. I think they have a bright future. So we've been long a while. And now we're starting to break some downtrend lines, breaking the 200 SMA. We've closed above it. And longer term, it looks like a bottom could be in. So we just added on Friday to our long-term position, and looking for much higher. Our targets are, our first target is 40, and higher targets of 60. So, you know, this one's definitely, you know, I'm looking at a 5-year hold. But definitely want to add here, and we'll add even more on a break above a close above 28, call it. So if we can close above 28, I want to add more. There's going to be some resistance at 23 and some resistance at 25. So we'll see how that resistance plays out. If we get a weekly close below this 200 SMA at any point, I will close out what I added. Still remain long, but close out the position I added on Friday. But as long as this 200 SMA holds, it continues higher, I will continue to add and looking for my upper targets. ADNT. So this name, it's an automotive play. They have big contracts with Tesla, so I really like this name. We've been long a while, have been underwater, but are finally now profitable. And with this gap up over this 200 SMA, I added to my long position on Friday. So I'm looking at first target of 36, 43, and then 55. These are, guys, these are like 5-year targets. These are longer term names that I'm willing to sit in and add to as they rise. So obviously at the 200 SMA, I'll close below that at the end of any week, and I will sell what I added on Friday. Continue to remain long, but just reduce. But as long as it continues to hold 200 SMA, I will continue to add and look for higher. Same thing goes with X. This thing is, I'm gonna go to the weekly chart to give you a better idea how beaten down this name is. So this had a high of, 47 back in 2018, and has just been on a steady decline all the way down to nearly a bankrupt 443. But look what's happening. We're starting to break downtrend lines. It's very possible the bottom could be in, and I want to be in early on that trend. So we got long somewhere, I believe in here a while ago. And now that we're starting to break this downtrend line, I added to that position. So still a little bit underwater, but I think if this downtrend line holds, this could quickly rise. First target I'm looking for is the 0.236 retrace of this move down, which is at 14, and then the 0.382 retrace is at 21. So, more than a double. It could be a while to achieve that, but I'm willing to hold it longer term and add as we break these levels, add to this position. And if we at any time close below this downtrend line, I will reduce my position and get out of what I added on Friday. And then some other long-term positions that I'm looking at. TLND, just software name, really like this name. I think it has a bright future. We added down here on this dip, so we're green this name already. And as of Friday, this is a weekly chart. As of Friday on this close above this downtrend line, and also above the 200 SMA on the daily, added to this name and looking for higher. 39 first, 46, then 52. And then ultimately, I think we can go much, much, much higher in this name. But these are the levels I'm watching first. And then at any time, if we close below that 200 SMA, I'll close what I added on Friday and just patiently wait until it closes above again. And then once it holds this 200 SMA, I'll continue to add on the way up. SGMS. So this is a casino play. They provide a lot of the gaming units for Vegas. This one is looking good. Haven't added yet because it has not closed above the 200 SMA, but it is looking good. And if it does close above this 200 SMA at the end of next week, I'm going to add to my position, and I'm looking for 23, 26, 33, 40, adding at those levels all the way up if we continue higher. And then if at any time I add and then close back below the 200 SMA, I just reduce what I add and wait till we finally overtake this 200 SMA and add as we move higher. But I do like this name long term. I think as gambling becomes more part of American culture, less taboo, I think eventually we're all going to be able to place a bet at sporting arenas, at sporting events. And as the online gambling continues, I think this name is a bright future. So yeah, I'm looking to add now while we're low, and then see how high we can get. Twitter, another long-term name I'm looking at. I was looking for it to close above this 0.618 retrace. This moved down, which is at 35.98. It got right up to it on Friday and backed off. Once it does close above that, I'm going to add to my long position. And I already have a long position, but want to add to it and look for 40. And then my ultimate target for Twitter is 52-ish. So, you know, it could take a while to get there. This one is a very up and down name, but, you know, it could be finally time it's breaking out. So watching for that 36 level to break, and then I'm going to add to my long. Another one, well, I guess that's all the long-term names I'm looking at. Let's go to some shorts that I'm currently in. SHAK. Now this is a name that I rode all the way from here to here. From we got long. Well, actually, sorry, no, we got long around 520 right here. Rode it all the way up to 770. Sold out at my target of 770, and actually got short. It extended, but it now has pulled back. I'm looking for an ABC correction, ABC, down to this 657 level, 657, 623, which where I'll cover my short and then reload the boat long, because I think SHAK has much further to go. I'm very bullish on this name long term, just bearish on it short term. So as long as this downtrend line holds, I will remain short and look for these targets. However, if we do break this downtrend line, I will cover my short and get long, because that means that the bulls aren't going to allow any more downside, and we're heading higher. So I think there's 1,000. I think this name is 1,000 written all over it. So longer term. All right, let's go over some Bitcoin. So I'm actually in GBTC, the grayscale, but it follows the Bitcoin pretty nicely. I really like how we are. You know, we had a scare here. Everyone sold out. We got rid of a lot of the weak hands, and now we're on the rise again, and we've overtaken this 200 SMA and overtaken the downtrend line that has been holding since the top, but we're now consolidating above it. This is extremely bullish. This is a very bullish look. And if we can break the highs of 10,500 from last week, I think we head up into these resistance zones. And there's a lot of them, but you know, I think we can start to break these pretty quickly once this 10,500 breaks, because shorts will be forced to cover. Everyone that thought Bitcoin was dead will start to have renewed interest, and I think there'll be a lot of buying and a lot of short covering. And you know, the first level of resistance is this mid 11s, you know, 11,500. Then we got the mid 12s, and then 13. I'm looking ultimately for this 1,300, 1,350 to be hit. And I'm holding the GBTC, the grayscale, and I believe if that 1,350, 13,500 gets hit on the Bitcoin, we could see 14, the higher 14s in the Bitcoin. So really nice risk reward in this name right here. A close for me would be above the a close for me would be below the 200 SMA, but reward is, you know, 3 points higher, whereas risk is only a point and a half higher, or sorry, a point and a half lower. So nice risk reward here, and Bitcoin is consolidating nicely, and And to me, it looks like it's getting ready for its next wave up. All right, some names that were requested. This first one, TER, requested by @KevinYKevin. This name's really bullish, man. It's testing all-time highs. However, for me, it's really hot, and I hate chasing. So I'm just going to tell you what I would do. I personally would wait for at least a retrace to happen. The 0.236 currently is at 72.93. The 0.382 is at 69.77, and the 0.5 retrace is at 67.22. Ideally, it comes down to at least test this 10 SMA. That would be a nice entry. Right around 68.57 is where that 10 SMA lies. And then even more ideal would be a buy closer to this downtrend line, this uptrend line that's forming right here. So if you can buy closer to there, that way your risk reward is much better, because if it closes below this downtrend line, or you might want to make your stop below the 200 SMA, then you're stopped out with little loss. And then your reward is much greater if you can take out all-time highs. So I would just wait for a better buying opportunity where the risk reward is better, and look for one of these three levels. And how I usually play these type of plays is I'll add a little bit. I'll add like a third tranche right here, a third tranche right here if it continues lower, and then a third tranche right here with a stop right here. And then if we find footing and then break down trend lines, I'll add even more to the position, because that means we're probably heading higher. But first, I want to wait on that dip and then break some downtrend lines to know that the bull rally has resumed. That's the way I would play that. So this one is from Dan. Dan's a member. How you doing, Dan? So he wanted me to look at CRK. CRK is, I mean, it's dead money. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere longer term, but shorter term, we could see a move back to the upper part of this, this basically big channel. Basically it looks like we have from 8 to 4 is the channel that this thing is stuck in. And we could get a move back to, maybe the mid 6 level. It looks like it's bouncing nicely and volume is coming in. So that's good. Massive volume. Like you can see, these volume candles are much bigger than any of these volume candles before it. So it looks like there's a little bit of bullish sentiment coming back in the name. So if you're long this name, Dan, I would look for 581 first, which is the 0.382 retrace, and then 632, which is the 0.5 retrace. And then if this downtrend line can get taken out and this 200 SMA can get recaptured and it can consolidate above, then you may want to add and look for higher. But this name, the history of it, it doesn't look like it wants to break higher. So I would just be careful putting a ton of money in this until it can get above this monster channel that it's in, at least above 8 for me to even consider holding this for the long term. But for a trade now, 581 and 632 could be your targets just for a trade with a stop below 531. So if you're going for that 632 and your stop's 531, pretty decent risk reward in my opinion. And then lastly, gold. I'm not a gold guy, so my analysis isn't going to be the best here. But I always play momentum. I prefer momentum. This one is consolidating nicely. I mean, gold is on a nice run, and it looks like it wants to continue higher. So if you want to play for higher, I would wait for this downtrend line to break and then play for higher. And now if you want to hold this for the longer term, then now is not a bad place to at least add a little bit. Ideally, if you want to hold for the longer term, I always like buying near the 200 SMA, because then you buy near the 200 SMA. If it closes below that 200 SMA, then you just get out with little loss. But if it holds that 200 SMA, you got in a pretty sweet entry. So, you know, if you want to play more just a momentum trade, wait for this downtrend line to break. If you want to play for the longer term, try to add closer to the 200 SMA and much more favorable risk reward. All right, guys, that is all I have today. I hope you found some of this stuff helpful. And remember, if you want to sign up, get all my trades in real time via Twitter, and join me for Zoom conference calls twice a day. Ask all the questions you want. You can sign up at northcoastpartners.com. It's just $50 a month, and the first month's free. All right, well, I will see you guys in 2 weeks, next Saturday. But in the meantime, remember, do not trade for thrills. Just consistently make those dollar bills. All right, I'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks.